What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're going to take a look at the top legendary weapons for PvE in Lightfall and Season of Defiance. And so this season has some really strong new weapons, and Bungie have introduced a lot of new perk combos, as well as adding some of the top verb perks like Volt Shot or Incandescent to archetypes which have never had those bonuses before. And on top of this, they've added new bonuses like Hatchling for Strand and Void Destabilizing Rounds. And these perks take a bunch of weapons to a new level in the game, so in the video today, we're going to take a look at some of the absolute best weapons to go after right now. Unfortunately, many of them are pretty farmable and craftable. So loads of these can be targeted faster than in previous seasons. And so let's check them out. As always, I hope you find the video useful. And of course, we can't cover absolutely every weapon in the video, so let us know down below which weapons you would add to the list. But otherwise, let's get into it. And so diving immediately into stuff that you should be checking out right now. And firstly, we have the Iterative Loop. And this is a new arc fusion rifle in the rapid fire frame, which can be farmed on Neomuna. It's also a craftable weapon, and of course drops of this weapon will happen in world events on Neomuna, Terminal Overload, and you can get extra chances at picking up red borders and things like that by completing the heroic patrol missions. And this absolutely is a weapon to check out. As you can see right here, it's a fusion rifle able to roll Volt Shot. And make no mistake, Volt Shot is incredibly strong on this weapon. You can see it just chewing through multiple enemies. And it works pretty well on the rapid fire frame archetype as well, as we're not having to spend ages charging up the weapon, but despite it being slightly lower impact, it still does really good damage in PvE. And it transfers that damage really nicely with Volt Shot to other enemies nearby. And Volt Shot is without a doubt the big daddy trait for this weapon, and it's going to be the one that a lot of folks go after. So looking at stuff that you can pair with that, initially there is Compulsive Reloader, and that grants increased reload speed when close to a full magazine. And with us needing to get kills and then a reload with the weapon to trigger Volt Shot, the synergy there is really, really good. It can also roll Under Pressure and things like Lead from Gold, which are decent bonuses in the first trait slot, but I think specifically for this Volt Shot roll, pairing Compulsive Reloader is really strong. And so that's one weapon which you should absolutely look out for, but there's another really good fusion rifle this season, which is the Royal Executioner. And this is a solar adaptive frame fusion rifle that can be earned in Season of Defiance activities, so that includes battlegrounds, drops from Defiant Engrams, and of course focusing at the war table in the helm. Once again, it's craftable, so it's a pretty targetable weapon. And the main new thing for this fusion rifle is its ability to roll Incandescent. And much like Volt Shot on the other fusion rifle, Incandescent is really strong on this, although it can roll things like Reservoir Burst in the same trait slot, so some folks may want to go after that. But one of the really nice things with this fusion rifle is that you can pair Envious Assassin with Incandescent, and rapidly defeating targets with other weapons before drawing this one will transfer ammo to the mag from reserves. So it's possible to get 15 rounds in your magazine. And of course, if you keep sending those to targets, you're going to get some pretty juicy ignitions with Incandescent. Alternatively, in the first trade slot, you could pair something like Lead from Gold with Incandescent, which is a pretty solid alternative. But I'd say Envious Assassin Incandescent is an absolutely top tier roll on this fusion rifle, and for PvE purposes, absolutely once again, is something that you shouldn't sleep on. Moving over to another weapon from Neomuna though, and this time it's the Synchronic Roulette, which is a new strand submachine gun in the Precision Frame archetype. This one actually has an exclusive drop source in the Terminal Overload in Liming Harbor, so unfortunately it isn't a craftable weapon. But it does come with the new bonus Hatchling, and Precision Final Blows, or rapidly defeating targets with a non-precision weapon, spawns a threadling at the target's location. And that gives the weapon multi-kill capabilities. And of course there are a bunch of strand fragments that can improve the benefit of Hatchling, or even create more threadlings on kills. Without a doubt, it's one of the strongest new primary weapons in the game for PvE. And you can once again pair Envious Assassin with Hatchling, so you can get an absolutely massive magazine on this, but it has other really good bonuses that can be paired with that perk, things like Under Pressure, as well as Keep Away, which increases reload range and accuracy when no combatants are in close proximity, or the role that I have, which is Pulse Monitor and Hatchling, and Pulse Monitor once again is a really solid bonus. So absolutely, I would say Synchronic Roulette is one of the top weapons that you could pick up from Neomuna. But of course, it requires a little bit more good luck on the RNG front to both get the weapon and get good bonuses by farming Terminal Overload. A somewhat similar weapon though would be Perpetualis, and this is the Season of Defiance auto rifle. Once again, it's a strand auto, this time in an adaptive frame, but it can roll Hatchling. So you get a pretty similar effect really, and paired with that in the first trait slot, you can roll stuff like Envious Assassin, Keep Away, Elemental Capacitor, or even Zen Moment and Killing Wind if you prefer those kind of bonuses. So those are a couple of new Hatchling weapons which are really strong. Moving to the heavy slot though, this season there's a new heavy grenade launcher, which is the Regnant, and this is a Void adaptive frame launcher that drops from Season of Defiance activities. Again, it is a crafting weapon, but the good thing about this one is it can be a pretty much direct replacement for Wendigo. So it can get explosive light, and picking up an orb of power increases the next projectile's blast radius and damage. And just like Wendigo, that can be paired with auto-loading holster. Additionally though, it can get Envious Assassin, so if you want 15 rounds in the magazine of this grenade launcher, that's something that you can do pretty easily. And since it's craftable and pretty farmable, it's a great option for players who never got a good roll of Wendigo, or want a Void variant. But there are other good perk combinations as well. You can get stuff like Repulsor Brace and Destabilizing Rounds as a combo, which is pretty much the second most favorite combo on the weapon outside of Envious and Explosive Light, so I'd absolutely say that is another one to look out for. But on the front of grenade launchers, from Season of Defiance, there is the Prodigal Return, which is a lightweight frame arc grenade launcher, again pretty farmable from the season activity and the war table, and it's a crafting weapon, but it's the first grenade launcher that can roll Volt Shot. Not necessarily as good as things like Forbearance or Salvage's Salvo, which have perks like Chain Reaction, but it's certainly an alternative or something for folks to farm that don't have those weapons. So you can pair things like Envious Assassin and Volt Shot, or Lead from Gold Volt Shot, which is a pretty good option to keep that special ammo coming a little more regularly. So if you fancy trying out the first Volt Shot grenade launcher, be sure to look out for the Prodigal Return from Season of Defiance. We've got yet another Season of Defiance weapon here though, which is really good, and that's the Caretaker, which is a new adaptive frame solar sword. One of the main unique things about this sword is that it can roll incandescent, and so it is a bunch of fun, absolutely chewing through enemies with this thing, spreading Scorch and getting some tasty explosions. And you can pair stuff like Tireless Blade with incandescent, or Energy Transfer and Guarding will grant class ability energy when you receive damage, which opens up a few capabilities with different builds and perk combos in the subclasses. And this sword definitely pairs really nicely with Strand, as you can suspend targets and then just chew through them, getting some big explosions along the way. But the sword can also roll in the second slot a new bonus, which is Valiant Charge, and receiving damage while guarding temporarily increases sword lunge distance. So that may be something else that folks want to play around with. Either way, if you always wanted an incandescent sword, it's now possible in Season of Defiance. The last three weapons that we're going to look at right here do come from the Root of Nightmare's raid. So of course they rely on raid drops, and if you want to craft them, they'll need those red borders to be collected in the raid. So perhaps not quite as accessible as some of the other weapons we've touched on, but there are some really strong weapons. So initially there is Briar's Contempt, which is a new 3-round burst aggressive frame solar linear fusion rifle. So it's cool to get another one of those in the game. And in the first trait slot, it's able to get top bonuses like Reconstruction, where the weapon slowly reloads itself over time, up to double the capacity, which is pretty much auto-loading holster on steroids, of course, but it can get rewind rounds as well. And when the weapon's magazine is empty, it refills from reserves based on the number of kills. Then there are 3 really powerful pairings for this, so there's stuff like Focused Fury, and dealing half the magazine as precision damage grants the weapon bonus damage. But also Frenzy, and being in combat for an extended time increases damage, handling and reload speed for the weapon. Then, Paracausal Affinity, and final blows of energy types matching this weapon's alignment grant increased damage for a short time. So light final blows boost arc, solar, and void weapons, and darkness final blows boost stasis and strand weapons. It doesn't perhaps have the most common top tier damage bonuses for linear fusion rifles, but there are good options there. And of course having bonuses as well, which increase the amount of ammo we can have in the magazine and auto reload the weapons, certainly opens up different options with these. All of the raid weapons also have the origin trait Harmonic Resistance, and equipping multiple weapons from the set grants this increased reload speed, handling, and also increased damage versus Tormentors, Lucent Hive, and Guardians using supers. So you can pair multiple weapons together to get some pretty solid damage increases. The next weapon worth mentioning though is the Acacia's Dejection, which is a new solar trace rifle, so it's adaptive frame. And this is the second solar trace rifle which can roll incandescent, but it can also roll target lock in its second trait slot. So it has a couple of unique bonuses there in traits. They can be paired once again with Reconstruction, Rewind Rounds, or Envious Assassin in the first slot. Any of those 3 bonuses with something like Incandescent are going to be pretty fun. So a slightly different take on something like Retraced Path from Dares of Eternity. The very final weapon though is the shotgun from the raid, which is Nessa's Ablation, and this is a pinpoint slug frame shotgun with void damage. And so in the first trait slot, you can roll Reconstruction, but also Repulsor Brace, and in the second trait slot that can be paired with Destabilizing Rounds, where final blows cause nearby targets to become volatile, so if you want loads of void explosions, this shotgun's going to be a pretty good one. And of course, you can either boost that magazine with reconstruction, or get yourself the overshield with repulsor brace paired with destabilizing rounds. But otherwise, in the second trade slot, Vorpal weapon can roll, as can Paracausal Affinity. So it's definitely got some unique possibilities on this thing. And for today, guys, those are the 10 weapons I wanted to focus on initially. Personally, those will be my top picks from the season and the expansion so far. But as I said, there are plenty of other weapons in the game right now, and a lot of really good stuff. So give us your thoughts down in the comment section. Let us know any crazy rolls you've picked up, or weapons you think should be on the list today. But if you've enjoyed the video, a rating down below really does help us out on the channel. And if you want to see more Destiny content, be sure to get subscribed so I can keep you up to date. But otherwise, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.